I love it, love it, love it when we can talk both college and the NFL with Sean Salisbury. Sean, hope you had a great holiday. We were off a couple of weeks, but I'm happy to be back with you today, my man.
Yeah, it was a great holiday heading into an epic 2025, my friend. So I look forward to it. Great to be on with you. Thank you.
Let's start with college football. So we had a 12-team format. We're down to four. The top four teams are out. So you've got Penn State 6, Notre Dame 7 against number 5 Texas playing number 8 Ohio State. Is this the parity of college football, or did the committee get the seating wrong here?
Oh no, I think they got the seating wrong initially. I mean, just some of them. I think we need to change the rule, Grant, where it's the four best teams, not the four conference champions. And is listen, excuse me, the fight that Arizona State put up, phenomenal. You give them all the credit in the world for the fight they put up. Boise State, but we've had a lot of blowouts too. The truth is, just get the top four in there. I actually think, Grant, that we need to do it in the NFL as well. I don't believe the Rams and I know the conference here, and I'm not saying they're not good teams. It's no indictment on that. I believe the Rams and the Houston Texans. I don't believe they should be playing at home. The Minnesota Vikings at 14-3 should not be going on the road. I think we got to change that at some
That's
point.
a great point.
I'm all about. I really do. It just, you know what, you're rewarding, and people say, well, that's just the way it works. Well, it doesn't have to be the way it works. It really doesn't. And so I think we should. So getting back to the college thing, I don't think next year at this time we're going to be having this conversation. I think you're going to see the committee change, and it's an easy fix. Just tell them the four best are going, not the conference champions.
Yep.
Because you could become from a weak conference or have one of those years, and it needs to be the four best as voted on by the committee and get the committee right. So I think they put it this way. Isn't this amazing though? Think about the blue blood part of this, Grant. And I was doing a little research today, and you know what's interesting, and my co-host was looking it up. And of these teams, we talk about offense and the thrill of offense and all the spread out stuff. These four teams are in the top 5 or top 6 in defense, I believe, in the country.
How about that?
So, I mean, when I think of Ohio State this year, the first thing you think of is explosive, uniquely talented on offense. Their defense, I think, is 1 or 2 in America. Notre Dame's defense has been phenomenal all year. Penn State's that's their bell cow and their
Sure.
ability to get the ball to tight end. And, with all the flash and dash Sark brings to the table, Texas is one of the more physical teams in the country. So these defenses are going to, defensively, if you want to know if they win championships, look at the numbers. They're pretty damn good. So I think the most gifted team in this, Grant, is Ohio State. If everybody plays their best, NFL and college, if everybody plays their best of the 14 teams in the NFL right now, the way they're playing at their pinnacle, give me Baltimore. As much as I love it, Baltimore is playing some unbelievable football right now. And in the college, if they all play their best, advantage Ohio State. The question, and Will Howard's a good player. Will they be explosive enough? Well, they answered that against Oregon, didn't they? I mean, They were off the charts. So blue blood programs, all four physical and nasty defenses. And, I'll tell you, one of the sneaky things that sticks out is Penn State's probably going to get the least amount of love, even though they're a blue blood program. And they are capable of winning the whole thing. But 3 really kind of grinding blue-collar quarterbacks, then the slick-throwing Quinn Ewers. But Notre Dame's team speed's different than it's been in the past, Grant. It just is. And I think if you watched them early in the year, you're thinking, who is Notre Dame? Is it going to be the same Notre Dame? The thing that has stuck out to me about them is just how they can get to the edge, and their team speed's not. They don't have to take a back seat now to the other guys. And in the past, that's been slight for they just haven't been quite as fast as other teams. Penn State, we talk about, the uniforms, the same. They're just a grind it and play defense, but really, their offensive coordinator with that tight end, they're using all kinds of different stuff. Texas is Texas. Sark's going to do his thing. And Ohio State, get those receivers the ball in space, and you're screwed. So. And Ryan Day's got the middle finger waiting to give it to the world after winning a big game against Oregon and waiting for this. So I think these 4 teams worthy. I don't think Oregon and Ohio State should have been playing in round 2. Okay, no. So the seeding's got to get changed. It really does.
All right, NFL. You mentioned Baltimore. I was thinking about Lamar Jackson and then Josh Allen of the Bills. Both have been right there. Both have had, let's face it, Super Bowl caliber teams, but don't have anything to show for it. And here we go again. I don't think anybody would be shocked if either Baltimore or Buffalo represented the AFC. No disrespect to Kansas City, and no, I'm not forgetting about them. Jackson, Allen, Who do you think's got more on their shoulders, more to prove here?
Yeah, Grant, I have pondered that question honestly the entire season, and we've done it for a couple of years. And as it gets closer, and because that pressure continues to build, right?
Yep.
And the truth is, the pressure becomes even. A lot of times we look at things. Well, they struggled, so the pressure's bigger. No, no, no. These guys are playing lights out, so we expect more. So the pressure builds because of the way they're playing. They both, in my mind, had their best seasons this year. Lamar, and that's saying something. Lamar's been the MVP twice. And Grant, if he wins the MVP, if he pulls this off the way he's played, and he goes and wins the Super Bowl ring, he's a surefire Hall of Famer 6 years into his career. That's 3 MVPs in a Super Bowl. I mean, if he's able to pull it off. Now, there's a lot of those guys that get to January. Allen, Lamar Jackson. The list that we always talk about. What are they going to do now? The guy in Kansas City's done it. So I don't actually think there's a lot of pressure on a team going for a three-peat. I don't. I really don't. I mean, there's pressure to want a three-peat historic and all that. But with the Chiefs, I don't think the pressure's on. I think the Chiefs are kind of sitting back. We haven't played our best. We're starting to play our best. You guys got to come to us. We'll see you, and we feel pretty good about our January chops. I think Allen's got a little bit more pressure, and I'm going to tell you why. Is because I don't think his team's as good overall as Baltimore. Now, they've had a hell of a season. I think if they both played their best, edge Baltimore, depending on where they play. Does that make sense? Buffalo,
Yes.
Baltimore. And I listen, both of those guys, it may even be 6 and 1 half dozen the other, but I don't want to skirt it like that. The truth of the matter is if Allen gets in and they lose in the playoff, I mean, when they get in, if they lose in round 1 or 2, it's going to say he's going to be in that category of best player never to win a major. That's just, but if Lamar Jackson, who now has a chance at going 3 MVPs and we're just, and he's elevated his game even more than we can imagine. It's like,
see,
there's a lot of pressure on him because you're so good in the end, and that's why the argument for him would play too. Grant, is that you're so big, you've won all these MVPs, but you haven't been the MVP in January or February. So individual pressure, put it this way, individual pressure more on Lamar because he has won the MVP and the expectations for him have soared through the roof already.
All right, I think it's Lamar Jackson for this reason, on top of everything you just said. He also has a dynamite back now in Derrick Henry, which has completely changed the look of the Baltimore Ravens offense. There is clearly, they were the number 1 seed last year, if you remember, and they lost to Kansas City at home. But now with Henry, there is absolutely no more excuses for Lamar Jackson. Not that people are making excuses for him. He has not played well in the biggest of games.
No doubt.
If that happens again with Henry as a back, that's going to be hard to overcome for Jackson.
100%. And that's the point I was making. Grant, if we had like 3 verticals, right? Let's start with 1. The pressure on the Buffalo Bills because he's got less weapons. Let's face facts. Going into this year, we thought they were taking a step back. So there's that part of the pressure. They cannot win if Josh Allen plays poorly. If he plays average, but Denver can go in there and beat them. So that pressure of having to shoulder it. In Baltimore, the weapons that Lamar, by adding Derrick Henry, who's having a great year, you've got the receiver, you've got wide receiver. I mean, you've got the tight end. They're loaded. They're friggin' loaded. And Lamar is using them all. And they've got Monken, who's a great offensive coordinator. So that pressure falls on him because we expect more, not only the MVP, but they got better players. So if you don't win it this year, then win. And their defense is starting to play phenomenal. And then there's both of them fall into the playoff January. We put guys in Hall of Fames a lot of times, or we give them MVP awards by their regular season numbers. We judge the legacy of them by their rings and wins in January and February. And neither one of them have been have done enough to do it. The difference is, though, Allen individually, because the pressure, he's got to make more plays. If Jackson plays average throwing it and plays great with his feet and they run the ball, Baltimore can still win. If I watched Josh Allen go like 9 of 30 against the Texans, only team the Texans beat that were a playoff or above 500 team. We went 9 of 30. They were still within a score, but they didn't win a game when he plays well. So Lamar can play good or average, and I think they're still good enough to win. While Buffalo's got a good roster, if Josh Allen, with all that he has to do, if you take him out of this game, or meaning he doesn't play well, I'm not sure Buffalo can win, and they'll struggle at home against a team like Denver on the road because Denver plays good defense. So I think it's both, but you are right about you upgraded your roster. I mean, you're a better team than Kansas City on paper, not the record, but on paper. This is supposed to be your time. There's pressure on both of them. Put it this way. There's no more individual pressure on any quarterbacks in this league more than those two, considering how good they are. But are they January guys or just December guys? That's what we want to find out.
You're a Raiders fan. Antonio Pierce was fired, but they keep their general manager, Telesco. I did a rant on this today. Who's going to make the decision on the next coach? It can't be Mark Davis. It just can't. I mean, he has shown everyone that he's not capable of hiring the right person to be the head coach. We know that Brady's part of the ownership. What do you think as a Raiders fan? How's this going to go down, Sean?
Well, I want to know one thing we ask in business and in Grant, whether you're doing a radio show, whether you're doing a broadcast, whether you're running a sales department, whether you're running a company, or whether you're running a team, define the roles. Do we know if they're defined in the front office in Oakland, really, or in Las Vegas? Do we? That's been a big. I'm not sure. I feel like they're a Where's Waldo organization right now. That they're trying. You know what I mean? They got this. They keep grab bagging. They miss on draft picks. They don't know if they like that. GM's changed a couple times to left. But my thing is that if you keep having a general manager, if they're missing on some draft picks and you hire, and you're the one who's hiring the coach, aren't you tied just like an AD is to the coach he hires? If USC's AD fails on 2 coaches in a row, the AD will get fired. It's just you're tied to that. I mean, Andrew Berry in Cleveland, the worst contract in NFL history, and they're throwing coaches and everybody, they're getting rid of it, throwing people under the bus, firing everybody else. At what point in time? Or in Jacksonville, with that situation, a lot of GMs are surviving coaches they fired and hung their hat on and players that's not working. And here we go with the Raiders again. It's Groundhog Day with them. I would love to have Brady. You know what I would do too? Maybe you bring in a guy like Nick Saban, not to coach. Maybe you do not. Don't go hire the Corn Ferry stuff. I know that the hiring. Bring in football guys who've built them and allow them to be on a committee with Brady and Mark Davis. Get out of your ego. That's caused Jerry Jones problems. Stop the power stuff and get people who say, let's try something this way this time. Because this coaching hire, like they all are important, as is this draft. And I don't think Brady stands for mediocrity. I'm not saying he's the greatest talent scout yet, because we don't know. He's a quarterback. But to have people around that have nothing invested in the team, that's what I want to do. I'm not used to, I don't like a lot of chefs in the kitchen. But the one chef needs to move down a little bit and move himself away from evaluating the talent, and that's Mark Davis. He cannot make the decision. He just got to approve it with the finances and the rest of it. I don't even like owners that just because they signed the check. I want them in the meeting listening, but I hired a GM for a reason. You go find me a coach and you're tied to him. I hired a head coach for a reason. I heard stuff out of New Orleans real quick, Grant. Yep. And I love Mickey. Mickey Loomis was with me. He was in the finance department in Seattle when I was a rookie in the league. I love Mickey. But he has been he's been with New Orleans forever, right?
Yeah, sure has.
But the talk is that New Orleans is considering Mickey that you take this job, you got to take 5, 6, 7 coaches that were on the previous staff. Now, I wouldn't take a job that somebody told me I'm hiring your guys, because then if those assistants aren't in sync with what I'm doing and we fail, who's taking the blame? The GM, or are you going to put it back on me? And those aren't my guys. I want the coach to be tied to the development of players, wins and losses, and his coaching staff. I want the GM tied to you negotiate contracts, you find the talent, and you are the head coach you hired. That's where you're married. You can't be them all. And so there's so many different things you got to look at. If I'm saying even a first-time coach, I'll interview a few of your guys, but I'm bringing my staff. If you're going to put me on the firing squad, it's my staff. And nowadays, guys are getting fired after 1 year. I'll be damned if you're going to run me out, because I can make $2 or $3 million as an assistant coach if you're Aaron Glenn or somebody else before you bring me into. You're setting me up to get fired. So yeah, Grant, the Raiders have to do something different, as do some of these others. And it seems like that maybe Vrabel's a guy that the Raiders, because he's tough and hard nosed, and Brady's familiar with him. Ben Johnson's the other name, Aaron Glenn. There's going to be names, but those two at the top are going to be the top ones. But as a coach nowadays, assistants make so much money, college coaches. Sarkisian's name's going to get mentioned. I guarantee it. But you got to be very judicious and very selective, because if you don't have the belief and they're making you do stuff you don't want to do, meaning hire somebody else's coaching staff,
Yep.
I would be very leery of getting out, because that means they've stripped you of any power the second you walk in the building. But the Raiders are just a guy, and right now it's a piss poor organization. And I hate to say it because I'm a diehard fan and it sucks.
Sean, Sam Darnold arguably had the best story, the best year of anyone in football. I mean, what he did was amazing based on the previous years, but he was not good against the Lions. Should Vikings fans be concerned about Darnold going into this game against the Rams, or do you look at that as just one bad game?
I would, first off, I would be concerned about any quarterback who has some playoff experience.
Okay.
Going in, regardless of where Darnold's background's been. But I think he's shown enough body of work this year to know that if he has a bad game, he can overcome it. Now, the playoffs, as you know, Grant, covering sports forever, they're built different. They just are. They are built there. There's a throw up in your mouth intensity and pregame warm up, all those stuff that bring out the best in some and the worst in others. The problem is it happened against Detroit on a Sunday night game when the world was watching. It was for home field advantage. So I even heard some Vikings fans say, "We got to bench Darnold." For what? Are you seriously? That but you know how it is, the instant gratification. I'm not worried at all. Matter of fact, you know what? I think Sam, after all he's been through of being cut, being laughed at, saying he's a bust, I think he's set up to understand it. This is one game. It isn't 4 or 5 years of failure. I've been through that. So while you wanted it, you'd love to be at home. I actually expect Sam Darnold to bounce back and play good football. And he's closer to the guy we've seen all year than you saw the other. Listen, if I need to go through Aaron Rodgers and Favre and Marino and Moon and all the great Brady at times who've had those games, and I know they got rings that a lot of these guys do, not Marino or Moon, but they're great players. But I can't bury a guy for one bad game against the 1 seed and a team that's played out of their friggin' mind in Detroit all year long. Yep. Now, if he'd have done this 3 games in a row, I'll tell you this. You know, I trust Darnold more than I do Russ Wilson right now.
Oh boy, the Steelers.
They have gone to hell in a handbasket. So
4 straight losses. Their offense is inept right now.
They're the worst of the 14 teams offensively. Thank goodness their defense. So even though Russ has been in a Super Bowl right now, would you rather have Darnold or Russ Wilson in Pittsburgh? Well, of course you would. So I haven't been there where I know what it's like to throw it to the other team and then come back the next week and feel pretty good about it. I think Darnold's been kicked in the teeth enough that now if he lets one loss bug him, then Sam's not who we thought he was. You know what I'm saying? But I think I know, and I think Kevin O'Connell will put him, don't play scared, just play smart. He's going back to L.A. where he had great success with USC. Let it rip, man. I think Sam Darnold will play well. I expect Minnesota to win, but I expect it to be a 1-score game.
Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, when you look at that draft and look at their careers, what should that tell us about not burying a quarterback too soon in the NFL?
Well, they tried to do it to Bryce Young. Look what he's doing now again. He's starting to play better football, Grant. 6 games in, he's a bust. The guy can't play. He sucks. Well, guess what? He's got a good quarterback, a head coach that understands, who revitalized Geno Smith's career. He's done some really, really good things where he's been. So, to me, with Sam and who else? Yeah, I can't. Who
said Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, right. Well, listen, you think Cleveland would rather have Baker Mayfield than $230 million to a guy who may not play next year?
Right.
So, you know what? I think a lot of that has to do with their mental toughness, Grant. You know what I mean? Sure. The ability to say, you know what, you're not going to doubt you can doubt my skill, but you don't get to decide how I feel about my game myself. So, yes, not everybody does what Jaden Daniels or Stroud did as a rookie. It's hard position. It's brutal. You got guys punching you in them. Hitting you in the mouth. Sometimes the ball you threw last year that didn't get tipped gets tipped this year. Crap happens. So it's the intestinal fortitude. Sounds cheesy of those two guys. So, yeah, the truth is the development. We beg for guys to have a chance to develop. And then when they finally get to a point where there may be a later bloomer and they develop, it's like, well, what took them so long? Yet, for instance, in Minnesota, the question is, should we get rid of Darnold? Should we let him walk in free agency because J.J. McCarthy? Well, isn't everybody screaming? You got a perfect opportunity. Franchise him. Let J.J. McCarthy learn as he's coming off an injury. Have him available. Why would I give Darnold away? Franchise him for 1 year and see if he does it again. Then you got a decision to make the year after that.
Great point.
The Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers thing. So I think that we fire coaches too quick. We transfer portal too quick. We give up on people too quick. Sometimes, and trust me, I can tell you from my experience, sometimes a kick to the face changes your perspective when you went from the penthouse to the outhouse.
Yep.
How do you get back to it again? That's where you find out who they are. And right now, ain't nobody testing. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield don't have to apologize for shit after the way they've done what they've done.
The reason why I ask you that, I'm looking at Caleb Williams in Chicago, and I think we would all agree it was disappointing, but that whole franchise is such disarray.
From ownership down, Grant. From the ownership down, from ownership on down, right? For a while.
But with Williams, some antics on the bench, some body language that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago. But I look at this guy and I just see talent everywhere. So I would be shocked, Sean, if we're not talking about him as an upper echelon quarterback in 3 or 4 years.
If they build it right with the right coach, let's say Ben Johnson or Vrabel's tough. If somebody goes there, if they build it right and they get a GM that stands shoulder to shoulder with the head coach, and the management stays out of the way because they got great fans there, right? They get players for them. Listen, I hate his body language too. I do. And what he needs is a veteran to come in, a coach or a player who's done it before and been there, put their arm around him, but squeeze a little tighter and say, we're not doing that shit around here anymore, bud. We just need you to let players know that you got this under control. If we can just control it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, his skill set's as good as Bo Nix. It's as good. He may not be as accurate as him, but the skill set. What if I told you this? At some point, Caleb Williams is going to end up in the Pro Bowl. What would you say to that? If Chicago gives him play, his talent says that he's that good. I'm just telling you. Yeah, so the body language and, he's got to look at – he feels like that immature kid at times who didn't get what he wanted for Christmas, right? And you got to say, listen. And then about 4 or 5 years later, it's like, Mom and Dad, I'm really sorry, man. I matured. I get this. And you know what? A season like this, when's he had a bad season? When's that guy been through – individually – since high school, he dominated. He went to Oklahoma and dominated as a freshman, went to SC, Heisman Trophy, dominated both years, didn't win a national title, but individually played well. This is the first year he's really been kicked he had his ass individually kicked. So if he learns like most of us do, he'll be a hell of a talent at the next level. He just got to mechanically dial in. I wish somebody give me a year with him, an off season mechanically with him, where I had him twice a week. And I don't mean this arrogantly, but I can tell you what, mechanically, I can have that guy playing different football. And then his talent, which most of us don't have, he'll go play. And then let the head coach and those guys in the building take care of the psyche and the body language. He's a playmaker. He's too good, in my opinion, as long as he controls his mental approach and the emotional stuff. He's too good not to be a good player. This rookie class is pretty friggin' good. I would not take a quarterback over Drake May if I was New England. I would not do it. I wouldn't take Sanders. I wouldn't take Ward. I wouldn't take any of them. He's better than both of them right now. Wow. You got a guy in New England. You just got to get him some friggin' players. Yeah. So Drake May's a player. And Nix and I think Caleb, Jaden Daniels is off the charts. This rookie class is the shit. It's unbelievable. I'm telling you, they can play. Yep. And Caleb Williams, ironically, he's been good at times, but has the potential to end up being the best of them if he can just control a few things. So, yeah, I love this rookie class. I'm not real high on the one coming up now. We'll see how that works out. I wouldn't take any quarterback with the first pick of the draft, but Tennessee's going to have to because Will Levis has proven that he can throw it through a car wash without getting it wet. He just can't hit the car wash, unfortunately.
No, not good. Real quickly, Cody said if Buffalo were to lose, you think McDermott gets fired. I think 100% he would get fired. If they lose to Denver this weekend at home, yes, he'll get fired.
They'll have a long conversation, and they probably, matter of fact, they may move on and turn right around and hire Joe Brady before somebody else does, if that were to happen, because Joe's a hot commodity. Yep. And you know what the crazy thing? McDermott's a friggin' good coach, but doesn't he? He's kind of in the same boat as Josh Allen and Lamar are right now of the pressure on that coach to win because he's been knocking on the door and he's a hell of a coach. But it's a results business and you got to get results. So I absolutely believe it. And somebody asked, is it Ace? Yes, this is the guy from Benchwarmers, Brad on Benchwarmers. Yes, that would be me. Yeah, a dumbass then and a dumbass now. So here I am, brother.
Well, we'll let your dumbass go for the day. Thank you very much.
Okay, who you got tomorrow night? Who you got? I love you, man. Who you got Thursday and Friday in the playoff? Who you got, Grant?
I love what I see from Ohio State right now. I think that they're going to be the team to beat, and I'm going to pick Penn State, even though the record against them in big games is not good, but to get where they're at. So I think you're going to see Penn State and Ohio State. How about you?
You know what? It will not shock me in the way Ohio State's playing. I'm going to lean just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lean. We'll all go different because I'm going to take Notre Dame over Penn State because I think Notre Dame. I'm not sure we've given them the respect they deserve this year. Yeah. A lot of times in the past they've been overrated at times when they get in. I'm going to take Notre Dame, even though I love Penn State's what they're doing, and Franklin's got great energy. Yeah. I am actually going to take Texas to beat Ohio State on a final drive big play. If Ewers plays like he did last week late,
yeah.
Bam. But he cannot come out and start slow and throw a couple balls to the other team because Ohio State will curb stomp him. Ohio State's the most talented team in the country. I'm gonna say Texas. So give me Texas and Notre Dame in the final.
Yeah, if Ohio State wins 2 more games, it will certainly make the loss to Michigan a couple of weeks ago a little bit more comparable.
Ryan Day will have shirts and hats with a middle finger on them, brother. I got news for you. And I'll produce. I'll go buy the merch for him, and I'll just make the money off his middle finger if he approves it. There you go.
Take care, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. Have a great one. Thank you.
Appreciate you too. Good stuff with Sean Salisbury. Don't forget the Kings Roundtable coming up here in about 30 minutes. All right. So we'll be right back. Rhino, Jerry Reynolds, that's coming up at 4 o'clock. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.